It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantha Drax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine indeed. Welcome to the show, talking everything Star Wars and Lucasfilm. I'm your host, Brian Cameron, and with me, as always, is our co-host, Mr. Paul Naylor. How are you, Paul?
Hello, Brian. Very good, my friend. You had a good week?
Yes, it's been really good, really busy. And once again, I've got quite a few Star Wars news items to talk about this week, so we'll have a quick look at the rundown, Paul.
Let's go for it.
First up, Tony Gilroy's been talking Andor as well as he continues to promote this show coming next month to Disney Plus, and he's referred to it as being the most important thing he'll ever do.
Then we've got Daisy Ridley and Alden Ehrenreich to star in The Last Resort.
Next up, George Lucas is going to be presenting a screening of The Empire Strikes Back.
Good film, that. Hot Toys Galen Erso 6-scale figure, Celebration Japan exclusive edition. We take a lolook at that.
Gentle Giant have their K2SO coming out just in time for Andor.
And Regal Robot have got a Yuzum concept maquette.
We'll be checking out the little trailer for Young Jedi Adventures as the new episodes launch on Disney Plus and Disney Junior.
No nubs. Marvel June 2025 solicitations are out. Chaos, Legacy, Rise and Fear.
And we'll be talking everything Virtual Cantina, the Star Wars Celebration Facebook group, the Not So Virtual Cantina special edition event, and the Virtual Cantina Invades Tokyo Disney meetup.
I'm glad you had that bit to read.
Yeah.
And recap and review of Andor Season 1, Episode 10, In the Death Star Cometh.
And there's only one person that we could have on the show to discuss everything's celebration, and that is the admin for the Star Wars, the biggest fan-led Star Wars Celebration Facebook group. And that is our good friend, Spencer. How are you, Spencer?
Doing great, guys. Great to see you. It's been way too long since I've both seen your faces, and looking forward to talking celebration. And wow, we're literally 4 weeks away today from day one. Sorry, the last final day of Star Wars Celebration, which is ridiculously crazy at this point. They were already looking at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and it's that time for the pressure kicks in, and everyone's planning has to start coming together. So just to kick off the show, we'll discuss it in length later, but what's it like being the admin of the world's largest Star Wars Celebration fan group at this point in time leading up to a celebration?
It's a lot of work. It's a village to make it look as good as we do, and we have a group of about 15 people behind the scenes who do the day to day with everything we do. The behind the scenes is actually going to change quite a bit once celebration is over. Hey Ray, hey Jack. But it's a lot of fun, man. It's just originally started with 3 people, and then after Chicago 2019, we realized we had to bring a bigger team on, and it's grown exponentially to the point where we have department heads and almost run like a business at this particular juncture, just to just run our day to day, because we have a full podcasting network on top of the Facebook page, on top of every other social media that we run. So it's trying to keep the spirit of celebration alive 24/7, which there's a lot of great celebration groups that are out there, but there are not many that like feed into the fever pitch that is celebration, because it's completely different, as you guys know, from any other convention that you're ever going to go to. And it deserves as much of attention, if not, I think, as much more in a fandom that is so passionate. Let's just say that word about Star Wars. To have some place that's actually non-toxic, and something that people can talk freely, but as adults. I always say that George wrote these stories for kids, so we're middle-agers at this point. We should kind of get our egos in check and act our age, that we can disagree, but we can still enjoy Star Wars because we love Star Wars wherever our entry point is.
Yeah, we've all got the one thing in common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
the best thing, and it applies to your page, and it applies to Celebration in general, is the fact that you meet fans from all around the world, people you perhaps would never normally meet or have contact with in your normal day and walk of life, and you create friends for life. And you know, one of the best bits about the page, and especially I think going to a country like Japan, which I've been a few times, but is unlike. And it's unlike going to Europe or going to America. You're going to a very different culture and a very different type of country. And it can be puzzling and confusing to a lot of people. But you jump on your Facebook group, you can ask questions, and everyone's there to help each other, which is fantastic.
I mean, I'm trying to get as much information as myself. I mean, I've traveled around Asia extensively, but never hit Japan.
Yeah.
And I want to, this is my first time. And when I started working on this group in particular, a lot of the information that I passed out there was from my own research. I'm like, why am I holding it on to myself? So that's why I pushed it into the group. You know, because I was like, why am I going to hold on to it? And that's the same thing, you know, going to London, going to Japan, going, you know, throughout the United States. You know, it's at the point where we're all have information. Let's all bring the information to one depository and help each other out. Because honestly, at the end of the day, a lot of us have anxiety about travel, whether it be from, you know, state to state or to another country, you know, in general. So if we can make it easier for anybody to limit that anxiety, then cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's one of the things that's strong about what we do.
Yeah.
I think from my experience, the one thing that people will come away with is a heap of new friends. That's what always happens at Celebration. You'll find like-minded people and you'll make great friends from all over the world.
Really, because I mean, the one thing I pride ourselves on, at least with the VCN, is that, you know, you could have an autograph hall might be a bit less thing like it is this year, or you know, the paneling might be not to your thing. But honestly, at the end of the day, at this point for me, it's meeting guys like you, seeing you guys, you know, when I can. It's seeing, you know, my friends from around the country that I don't see on the regular on the concert in the United States or whatever. To me, it's about hanging out with the people that I really want to spend my time with. And it doesn't matter where it is, because Star Wars is the reason we're there. And that's the reason we're all going to get together. So to me, it's about the relationships. I mean, all of us have gone to Celebration in various points, you know, at maybe at least at that one time by ourselves before we got involved in any of the projects. I know my first Celebration, I knew one person who was going, and that was it. And my first Celebration, which was Orlando 17. And honestly, I mean, I spoke to obviously a lot of people online, you know, prior to getting information and anything of that nature. But I really didn't know anybody, and I really didn't know what Celebration was all about.
Yeah.
But as I'm online for the opening panel, I'm talking to this person who's standing behind me, who turned out to be someone I've been talking for months for, never knew what the person looked like. And it was Gary from Blabba.
Yeah.
And that was the first person I actually like friended in person. And we sat together at the 40th anniversary panel. And Gary and I have been really good friends for the last 8 years. But Gary was the first friend I made from online, but actually met in person. So you never know. I mean, I would say, honestly, I spend more time with my Star Wars VCN friends than I do with my friends who are not involved in the fandom.
Yeah.
Just because I have that kinship.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, same for me.
Yep. We're going to come back and we're going to talk more about Star Wars Celebration, more about all the events that you've got on that the viewers can all be a part of in and around Celebration. A little bit later in the show, but we're going to crack on and have a little look at this week's Star Wars news. And there's been a fair amount of it as we build up to Andor coming. So first up, Tony Gilroy's been continuing to be on the press tour for Andor, and made a really interesting comment, and I thought it was really quite profound from him, because he's one of these people where you've always kind of got the impression is, does he really love Star Wars or not? Is kind of always kind of maybe been my slight attitude. But he described working in Andor as perhaps being the most important thing you'll ever get to do. And I think part of that is the story that it tells. But I think there's in a way when perhaps when he came on the Star Wars bandwagon with Rogue One. He maybe wasn't that enamored with it, but it kind of feels that he's kind of grown to love it a little bit. What do you think, Paul?
I think what he's hinting at, he's more passionate about the craft itself rather than the actual IP. But he is also, I think he's grown to love Star Wars. And whilst he, probably we would love him to go and do something else within the galaxy far, far away. In a sense, it's probably best that he leaves on a high. And I've got a feeling that this second season of Andor is going to be so much better than season one. Season one was amazing. So go out on a high. Don't sully your reputation by doing something that perhaps may not be as high quality. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to seeing what he's done for this second season.
Was Andor something that caught your imagination with season one, Spencer?
Absolutely. My original background was actually in theater arts, so anything that's storytelling and strong storytelling is right up my alley. So the fact the slow burn, and we actually got to hear about these characters and find out more, and had some of the, I thought, the best monologues and writing in Star Wars, period. In season one, when you had, Skarsgård and Andy Serkis had incredible monologues that, I thought were, award worthy. In their performances. You can't say that very much with Star Wars. And I love Star Wars. But the fact is, for me, Andor, it was the adult Star Wars as an OT fan that I wanted at this age. It was not insulting the intelligence of the original, fan base.
Yes, yeah.
I know that we have that say, I wish it was more pew pew. And you get more pew pew, obviously, in season 2. You see that in the trailer. But to me, Andor, it stands above everything. And Tony Gilroy is right in the fact that he didn't go out to make a good Star Wars story. He went out to make a good story, period.
Yeah.
It just happened to be in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. And I think that's something that perhaps Lucasfilm are going to learn from a little bit in terms of, with Disney Plus, you've got the opportunity to make content for all different age groups. And this is certainly something for the older age group, I think. And the younger generation are grew up still to be able to watch this when they're older and enjoy it as much as we have. It's still going to be there and real for them. And interesting you brought up those sort of two monologues as well, because we're covering episode 10 later in the show where those two monologues kind of appearing. And it was that monumentous episode, One Way Out, I think, is which really put the cherry on the top of how good Andor was, I think, and sort of changed, I think, completely what Star Wars storytelling can be.
Look at, Celebration London. We had the first time ever their running of the prisoners, which has become a staple not only at Celebration, obviously there's going on in Japan, but at all cons around the world at this point. Also, if you look at as well, for those who were at the O2 as part of hashtag Cantina 2 years ago, people were, screaming One Way Out while Ash was playing, so it's affected, our whole universe, really. It's, our everyday Star Wars. One Way Out is the calling cry of today's Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. As much as I love Rogue One, I love Andor. Best Star Wars in the Disney generation for me was Solo, a Star Wars story. It's so underrated. Loved it. Thought Alden was fantastic as Han Solo. Really brilliant. And he's going to be back on the big screen alongside fellow Star Wars alumni, Daisy Ridley, and a new project called The Last Resort. And very coincidentally, it's going to be filming in the Philippines, not too far from Japan, in April, which would make a little plane journey across to Japan quite easy for Miss Ridley, if need be. And how brilliant would it be if Alden came over as well and they announced Solo too? But, that's me in Dream World. Kind of strange when the Star Wars universe collides and Star Wars talent end up in a completely different project together, Paul.
Yeah, it's like a meeting of two worlds, isn't it, really? But I stand by the fact that Alden's performance as a slightly younger Han Solo, I think he did a cracking job of it. It wasn't an impersonation, he did his own thing. And why, oh, why that film gets so much sort of negativity is beyond me. It's a great film. It deserves at least a sequel, or maybe a TV series would be good. You know, let's bring all sorts of characters back into it. Lando, I know there's supposedly Lando films or shows in development, but yeah, just let's get back to Solo because it was great. And Daisy gets a bad rap as well. I thought she really did hold episode 7 together, her and Harrison, but I think she really did a good job in episode 7. And I think her performances in 8 and 9 were only really down to scripting issues, really. You know, she's got to go with the script. But for me, she's a great actress, and seeing the two of them together will be bizarre.
Spencer, was Solo a film that captured your imagination?
So I felt that Solo gave me the first feelings of the original trilogy out of all the Star Wars movies. I absolutely adore that movie. If they kept it at the original release date, which was supposed to be December that year, as opposed to fast tracking it to 6 months after whatever I like to say garbage that the press gave, or the fandom menace gave Last Jedi, because I love Last Jedi personally, and I adore Ryan Johnson, but I think that they could, if they kept it to the year as opposed to the 6 months, it would have done a lot better as far as marketing is concerned, and given people a chance to breathe. People were still digesting, what
Yeah.
The social media was saying from Last Jedi.
It was a real horrible time to be a Star Wars fan, kind of at that point in time, because it was just people were in that frame of mind just to bring each other down. It was like this inner conflict.
Well, if we look at this, if you remember, you guys may remember this, is that when the prequels came out, all we had was AOL chat rooms. We didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have MySpace at that time. If George got the heat that Last Jedi did for the Phantom Menace, which made him even question, even after Phantom Menace, whether or not he was even going to do another one. But if he had Twitter back in the day after Phantom Menace, we would not have gotten clones and we would not have gotten Sith. Social media would have been all up on him, because people were saying back in that day, oh, he doesn't know his product anymore, sell off the product, put it to somebody who actually enjoys it. Okay, he sold off the product and they still are not happy. So you're not going to make everybody happy all the time. There, obviously, we talked about before. We have the adult Star Wars with Andor. As right now, they're obviously doing Last Jedi Adventures for the more the younger audience to come into there. It's Solo to me was primo, and if Ron Howard was involved since day one, it would have been that much better than it already was. I think he did what he could, and it was still a great film. And the only reason why people still dog on that is because it was still in a very raw area in this fandom for Star Wars, one way or another at that particular time. And it was the cautionary tale, unfortunately, of the Disney era.
Yeah. Catherine here makes a really good point as well, that after spending so much on bringing Ron Howard in and the reshoots, the budget really there to market it had gone as well. So there wasn't much marketing in the run up to the movie. And I think that had a major effect as well. And I think Lucasfilm were in a bit of turmoil as to the reaction to The Last Jedi as well. Sometimes the hateful voices can rise above the positive voices when it comes to social media. And I wasn't a fan of The Last Jedi, but I don't take it away from someone who did enjoy it. It just became, the sequels weren't for me. I can enjoy other Star Wars content. I don't need to bring other people down that enjoyed it.
I think it became fashionable for people outside of the fandom to hate on it. It became a fashionable thing.
And I think because of the very much public problems that the making of the Solo film had, it was an easy one to knock without anybody actually going to see it. And that was the kind of sad thing. I've always wanted to know the statistics on Disney Plus of people watching the actual movie after it came out, because I imagine that film has had a lot of views on Disney Plus and has had a lot of rewatches, because I think a lot of people who knocked it at the time it came out maybe discovered it later.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
I feel that it goes in segments. I mean, I have a bunch of friends who now appreciate it a lot more than before, when they first saw it. But if you remember this as well, and I'm a form guilty of this as well. It took 20 years for people to kind of accept the sequels. I mean, the prequels era, the original trilogy. And honestly, for me, the turning point was when Ahmed got the standing ovation in Chicago 2019 at Celebration.
Yeah.
That was for me. It's like, I can let this go now. This is not my Star Wars anymore. The kids of the prequels are now the parents. I look at it as generational. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go look through it through new eyes. I think, honestly, that Last Jedi in another 10 to 15 years will be looked at as potentially a turning point of Star Wars. It was just something that was not of the norm at that time. And Rian Johnson took a risk that not everybody was willing to accept at that particular time. But I think in the long run, people will grow to appreciate it a lot more.
Talking about Celebration again, it's very relevant. Sometimes the reaction of the crowds at Celebration, like you mentioned with Ahmed Best, tells you what's wrong with social media in terms of what gets to the top of the bubble, and I think we've seen similar with Hayden Christensen as well. And I think sometimes you actually get a real taste of what the fandom really thinks at something like Star Wars Celebration that you don't necessarily always find online. Talking about a film that probably gets universal praise, and the very creator of Star Wars as well, Mr. George Lucas, is going to be at the TCM Classic Film Festival on Thursday, April 24th. And he's going to be presenting a screening of The Empire Strikes Back to celebrate the 45th anniversary. Excited that this is happening, because we don't often see George connected with Star Wars happenings anymore. And I feel very glad when I see things like this, that he's still able to take the plaudits, because it always upsets me, the interview where he made the comment that he sold Lucasfilm, because that's what the fans would want, kind of comment that he made. And he seemed very down about people didn't want him making more Star Wars. And I always hate that. I always hate that he may think along that line. So I always feel happy that he's comfortable to be involved with things like this. And I wish I could go, but I'm going to be in Japan. I'm going to be visiting Mount Fuji on Thursday, the 24th of April. Paul, The Empire Strikes Back, happy memories for you?
Yeah, I can remember. I can still remember going to see a double. When they do the Star Wars and the Empire as a double. I remember going to that whilst I was on holiday in a place called Rill. People know that place.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. But I can remember seeing it the first time, and it was back in the days where halfway through the film it would stop to allow for a break for the ice cream man to come to the bottom of the stairs, which was bizarre. And it was the bit on Dagobah where Luke climbs into the tree past some things. It was bizarre, but for me, it was one of the pivotal films of my childhood. I'd seen Star Wars in '78 when the UK got it on general release. So when Empire Strikes Back came out, Mum and Dad were pestered so that I could go. It's just an absolutely magical sequel. It's very rare that you get a sequel that exceeds the expectations. Even at that young age, I knew I was watching something that was a lot more meaningful and powerful than perhaps A New Hope. And I say that cautiously, but only because I think the character development was so much more, the jeopardy of it all. A great film, and I think it's probably one that George feels a massive connection to anyway. Hence his want to be there at this event. He's going to love that.
Yeah, Spencer, happy memories of seeing The Empire Strikes Back on the big screen.
It's my first off. It was the first Star Wars film that I ever saw in the theaters. It's also my favorite movie of all time. Um, the fact that he's doing this is great. Unfortunately, I have a lot of friends in Los Angeles who looked up into this, and that you can't get individual tickets for this showing with George. You have to buy for the entire weekend of festivities, which stinks because I know a lot of people who just go for the one. Um, but for me, Empire is the catalyst of a mold for future things that you're gonna have that are gonna happen in cinematic history that don't happen. I also have a fondness for the second movie of every one of the trilogies. So for me, this was the kickoff that you could not. I mean, I think that you could not have Return of the Jedi with having the lull of Empire happen. You couldn't have the climatic fight of Mustafar if you didn't plant the seeds and attack the clones. And honestly, I mean, I don't know what Rise of Skywalker was. I don't still don't know what that movie was. But to me, I love Last Jedi, so I'll leave it at that. But I love the second movies, and to me, Empire is still. I think there's very few movies out there you could say it's just about the most perfect movie you could find that brings you down to the lowest of lows, but it has you feeling so hopeful at the end for the future. Empire says it all.
I think you're right as well. That it was very rare for a sequel film to be successful at the time that Empire comes back, and especially one that didn't have the rounded, polished story, and had the confidence to be the middle arc in a 3-arc storyline. And I kind of agree with you as well about the Rise of Skywalker. As much as I said I didn't enjoy The Last Jedi, they didn't commit to what they did with The Last Jedi to complete the trilogy, which just puzzled me completely with the final one of the sequel trilogy films. And I'll never quite understand that. I thought, if you've made The Last Jedi, you then have to stay true to it and finish a trilogy. And it may not be everyone's taste, that trilogy, but it has its audience and it has its fans. And The Empire Strikes Back to me was kind of unique in the middle part of a trilogy being bold enough to say we're the second part of a 3-part story. It was very different. Next, let's talk some product, because we like product and we like buying things. This is how we like to spend our money. Celebration again on the horizon. Hot Toys have started revealing some of their exclusives, and first up we have the Galen Erso 6 scale figure, which Hot Toys products are fantastic, but just the face on Galen Erso on this, I think, is just beautiful, Paul.
Yeah, they've done a very good job. It's a good likeness. The shot that they've used there almost looks like Tony Stark with his glowing chest, but we'll forgive them for that one. And that's a uniform that we don't often see him as an action figure in. I think, did we get one in the Black Series wearing that costume?
I don't think so.
But yeah, a great likeness. And what's that retailing for?
I don't think they announced the price, but it's limited to 1,500 units, so think high numbers.
Yes, yeah. If you've got to ask,
around $240 US.
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay. Yeah, that's not actually too bad, actually, to be fair. One of the dangers of Star Wars Celebration, Spencer, is the array of amazing products available.
Yeah.
It's a great product, but I'm a diehard Funko head, so I don't need to get another addiction. Good on you to everybody who likes Hot Toys, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay.
Gentle Giant may be more to your taste, coming in at $200. K2SO announced limited to only 1,000 pieces, coming just as he's about to return for Alden Season 2. Any takers for a K2SO?
I like K2SO, but yeah, it's a little bit too pricey for me.
Yeah.
It's base for me.
Yeah. Is there a pop of that one, Spencer?
Well,
Is Is there a pop of K2SO?
So there is a K2SO pop from Rogue One. I'm glad that I already have that signed by Alan Tudyk.
Nice.
So I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, there's actually multiple. There is a K2SO, the original one, and there's also the one with K2 holding the guns from his last stand
Right.
in the final act of Rogue One. So there are two. I think that last one might have been a New York Comic-Con exclusive.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent.
And last this week on our products from Regal Robot, who always do amazing things. If you're a big fan of Yuzum, you can get the concept maquette, and they've got some great videos and interview with the designer as well up on the Regal Robot YouTube channel. Amazing handcrafted maquette, and so it comes with the high price of $4.99, but if this is the kind of thing that you collect, it is worth every single penny. I love what Regal Robot do, but I collect their magnet range because it's more in my price range.
Anybody remembers the flumps? He's giving me flumps vibes there, but still.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's this week's products. Next on the news cycle, Young Jedi Adventures has returned with new episodes on Disney Plus. We can play a quick video trailer.
This is an adventure.
New episodes.
You got this.
That's how it's done.
Bigger adventures.
Just stick together. No! Do you know what this means? I am so ready for this. Why did it have to be one of the big ones?
May the Force be with you.
Young Jedi Adventures, Season 2. New episodes available now.
Nubs seems to be the character that appeals to everybody coming out of this series. And he's going to be at Star Wars Celebration, apparently, I found out today, from being on the Celebration page that you run, Spencer, as well. So I'm going to have to make my way. There's going to be a Star Wars kids area, I believe, on the show floor. So I'm going to have to make my way there to see if I can get a photo with Nubs.
We all need to see that.
Dubs is a standout.
Yeah.
Especially Darth Nubs from the Lego show.
Dark Nubs. Okay, I haven't checked out the Lego show. I have a version to all things animation. And so I've never seen.
I will say to you, Darth Nubs, and finally Darth Jar Jar is now canon.
Absolutely. There we go. Mark's telling me that I'm going to be getting a hug from Nubs at Celebration. If that comes through, that'll go up on the Fanta Track social media, I'm sure.
Well, that's a photo op needing to happen.
Yeah. Something more up my street is comics. We've got all the solicitations coming in June from Marvel, including a new Doctor Aphra ongoing series known as Chaos Agent. We'll have a quick flick through what's coming. So as I said, first up, we've got the launch of Chaos Agent, which I'm sure we'll find out a lot more about at the publishing panel at Celebration. And Aphra's going to be teaming up with Luke Skywalker to track down a rare artifact. We also have the Legacy of Vader issue 5, the Kylo Ren story, which has gone quite interesting. It's touching on a lot of unexpected places in canon. We have the new Star Wars ongoing, issue 2. And the end of the Rise of Skywalker adaptation, which don't know why they're releasing it now, and I don't know why they held it back for so long either. Strange all round. But that completes your collection if you are a fan of the Rise of Skywalker. And the High Republic is fast moving towards its epic conclusion as well, with the Fear of the Jedi issue 5, wrapping up that miniseries from Bristol's very own Cavan Scott. And last on the comic schedule for June is Jedi Knights issue 4, which I've not checked out at all yet, and I don't know too much about, so that's maybe something I'm going to have to find out a little bit more about. Mr. Newbold says if I get a hug from Nubs, I'll get it as a 2-2. So I'm adding that to the live stream so we have a public record of Mr. Newbold's statement.
You're writing, sir.
Yeah. And if Rob's saying there, if I don't get a hug from Nubs, it's going to be a sad day. So I'm under pressure now. It has to happen. It has to happen.
Yes.
So as well as getting a hug from Nubs at Star Wars Celebration, one of the things I'm most looking forward to is the night before Celebration, where we've talked about at the start of the show the joy of meeting fellow fans. And one of the events that they can do that at is an event that you're running, Spencer, called the Not So Virtual Cantina. And obviously this is attached to your very own Star Wars project, the Virtual Cantina, that runs the biggest Star Wars Celebration fan page out there on Facebook. So tell us a little bit first about Virtual Cantina in general and about this event, if you don't mind.
Sure. So the Virtual Cantina Network is a fully fan-run community of fans, run by fans for fans, as a supplemental of not only for Star Wars Celebration, but also for going to other cons and events around the world. We've had many meetups at other conventions, such as MCM, at New York Comic Con, at San Diego Comic Con, and Fan Expo Boston, just to name a few. Also, we went on a 3-city tour of California last year with meet and greets with over 40 actors and crewmen from around Star Wars, including stops at Disneyland, and ending with us getting a family portrait outside the Yoda Fountain in San Francisco, which was very incredible. But the Not So Virtual Cantina Special Edition, now, if you've been to any of our events before Celebration, which I know definitely that Brian has, is that usually Not So Virtual is our Wednesday night before Celebration event that we typically have at just a bar and have a bar night just to get excited and just have low key, just show up and have a few pints and everything. I remember seeing Brian at our Not So event in London, but we typically do our Boonta Eve event the night before Celebration. Now, unfortunately, this time we all have to go to Will Call. So that's not very conducive to a Boonta Eve, because Boonta Eve is traditionally an 8-hour event with meet and greets, karaoke, podcasts. Last year, 2 years ago, you guys had a great podcast up on our stage at Boonta Eve.
That was me. That was me, Spencer.
I know it was you, Paul, and we really appreciate that you guys held on the fort for that panel. But we typically do a lot more with Boonta Eve. Obviously, last time, we also had Blues Harvest doing a great acoustic set in the other room while we were at the Breakfast Club in London. But since we only have a 3 to 4 hour period, because all of us really have to go to Will Call this time, we're basically doing what we want to say is the best of Boonta and the best of the Not So in one 3-hour event, where we're going to have meet and greets with 9 people. We'll have sabacc there, games going on. We'll have food and drink and camaraderie, and it's really, I like to call it, is the ultimate opportunity for people who are either family members or people who have never been to Star Wars Celebration, as an opportunity to meet people that when they walk into the building for the first time, they're not feeling so alone when they're online waiting for a panel or sitting in a panel or walking through autograph hall, because it can be very daunting, especially if you're flying by yourself over to whatever Celebration is going to be. So really, we use our events at Celebration in particular as a catalyst for the main event, which is always going to be Star Wars Celebration. And at this point, it's become a staple. Our events, whether it be the Not So or Boonta, have become a staple as far as your experience in Celebration, which is, it shows the work that me and my team have done, is that, when people in the same breath are mentioning a 501st Bash, they're mentioning our events. It makes us feel good, because we still, we look at 501st Bash as one of the ultimate events that you want to go to at Celebration. We're in the same conversation with that, as so is hashtag Cantina. I gotta give it up to Martin Keeler and his crew for when they do their cantina. So it's nice to be in that conversation that we're part of the lexicon that is Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah. I don't think you could think of Star Wars Celebration now without the Virtual Cantina having an event around it. It kind of feels that there would be something missing from Celebration if it wasn't there. And I'm glad you kind of mentioned the other events you've done at other conventions and across the United States as well and around the world. And because I think being part of your group online is so much the fact that there's a community, there's things going on all the time, and sometimes people just organize their own meetups and things like that as well. And I think that, we spoke earlier about the positivity of Star Wars fandom, is the prime example. And I think that's why so many people get excited for going to this event. And, the tickets sold out in minutes for it as well, is a testament to how popular it is and how excited people are. They couldn't imagine Celebration without this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it was interesting because the sub with Boonta Eve in London, we sold out in a day and a half.
Yeah.
We just thought, okay, it's still pretty good, I'm very happy. This time, I didn't even have an opportunity to do the 25%, 50%, 75% ticket count. My phone just kept on going off.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, okay, it's done. And that's a testament to, I think, the work that we're doing, because 2 celebrations in a row, before we announce one guest, by our pure brand recognition alone, we're selling out.
Yeah.
By brand recognition. So to me, it's now become, a hot ticket to the point where you want to be able to get into Bunta or not so before Celebration, because it's known as the event you want to be at to kick off your Celebration experience.
Yeah. And I guess the sad thing is as well, you mentioned having the Virtual Cantina and the Boot Eve. They're quite organised this year, ReadPop, in terms of being open for badge pickups. And if they'd announced that much earlier in the cycle, how much easier that was going to be than being a last minute scramble that everybody feared, it would have allowed more events around the show. So shame on you, ReadPop, for not being organised and letting us know. But yeah, it's I think I'm right in saying that you can go to pick up your badges starting on the Tuesday, I believe. And I'll run all the way through to Thursday. So yeah, we'll see if the badges are there. That's when I say they're more organised. If you turn up Tuesday morning, will you get your badge? We mentioned it's a sellout.
I'm not getting to Chiba until Thursday morning. So the morning of the Not-So, I'm coming into Chiba from Tokyo, going to get my badge, and then heading over to the Not-So. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I'll maybe let you know. I think we're planning on going on. I'm staying at Chiba for the first week in Japan, so I'm planning on going on the Wednesday morning before heading across to the Disney park. So I will let you know how chaotic it is.
Sounds good.
We mentioned that the Cantina event sold out, but there is still another way that you can potentially get access.
Yeah, so we're offering something called the Hyperspace Ticket, which was actually something we offered in London as well. Starting at 6:30 p.m., we're going to have a line outside the building where it's going to be is that if anybody is leaving from the Not-So that already has a ticket, we are going to offer what we call a hyperspace ticket. One person leaves, one person goes in, and you'll get a half price ticket. You still get to do all the meet and greets. You'll get open bar. You still can do sabak and swag trading. You just won't get the swag bag or partake in the meal that is part of the ticket. But the fact is that if you are lined up and you're able to get into the Not-So, we're offering half price tickets from 7 till 9 p.m. Doesn't make sense to do it any past 9 p.m. because the event closes at 10. So basically, the earlier you line up, the better chance you're going to have. I mean, there's going to be some people who are not going to stay the entire time. They might do their meet and greets, have a bite to eat, and head out. That's completely fine, whatever they want to do. But we will be offering half-price tickets at the door. First come, first serve. There are no guarantees that everybody's going to get in, but it will be $50 available by PayPal or Venmo at the door. But like I said, someone's about to leave. Our doorman will take their wrist bracelet. Okay, next person in line, give them a wrist bracelet. They pay $50. They come in. So there is an opportunity to come in.
Yeah. You mentioned Sabak is one of the opportunities people have to play when they're there. I learnt Sabak just at the last London Film and Comic Con. Our booth was next to a Sabak stand. So I learnt how to play it. And if you want to pick up some really beautiful Sabak coins, Hyperspace Props are one of your sponsors for the event.
Correct. Yes. Hyperspace Props, which you go to hyperspaceprops.com and use the code NSVCSE, which is Not So Virtual Cantina Special Edition. You'll get 10% off your entire purchase. And they have, including the new Kessel Sabak, which you can play in Outlaws, available to be played there. Now, Hyperspace Props will have an entire area at the Not So where they'll have ongoing games and tutorials of Sabak, but also a great idea is that they will have some pieces available for sale at the event, or you could pre-order and have them ship. But here's something that's incredible as well. If you pre-order right now and get your 10% off and then reach out to Hyperspace Props afterwards, especially for you gents over in the UK, they will bring your items with them to Japan to hand to you at the Not So. So if you guys are looking to get some credits before you start to play and sit at the table at our event, that's a perfect way to get that right there. I also do know, and I can say, that they are going to introduce their brand new at-and credits at the Not So Virtual Cantina. Nice. So you get the first look for sale at the at-and credits at the Not So Virtual Cantina.
Brilliant. I love that. And you mentioned signing guests. So let's go through who you've got on the roll call there available for autographs and photo opportunities.
Right, so first off, we have Fawn Davis. Fawn Davis is an alumni of ILM. He's being brought to us by Out of This Galaxy Talent Agency. He was very much involved in the special editions, the prequels, even The Mandalorian. Currently, he has his own studio, Fawn Coast Studios, which is in Los Angeles, California. And Fawn is actually part of a panel about the science of Star Wars at Celebration. But we are very lucky to have this alumni of ILM to coming and doing some meet and greets with us. He is going to be charging $40 US for a combo, which will include an autograph as well as a selfie.
Next up,
Maria Sandoval. Maria is the Emmy-nominated hair designer for the entire Filoniverse. We're talking from Mandalorian to Book of Boba Fett to Ahsoka, and including the movie. So Maria will be at our event. She is also the mother of Speedy, who was the speeder that Hayden was riding behind the scenes during Ahsoka. So we're very excited. Maria is going to be there. She is coming in, and she will be at $40 US for an autograph and a selfie combo as well.
Next up, Chris Parsons.
Chris Parsons, who is no stranger to you gents over in the UK. Chris Parsons is for LOM. If you know, he was the LOM class droid that was in The Empire Strikes Back. He also appeared as C-3PO and other protocol droids and other characters throughout the original trilogy. Chris will be at the Not So Virtual Cantina. He will be charging $70 US for a photo op, for a selfie and an autograph.
And Mr. Newballs just reminded me that he just recently interviewed Maria, so she's going to be on this week's episode of Making Tracks. So if you find your podcatcher of choice and type in Factor Tracks Radio, you'll be able to hear a little bit of Maria's story before you get the chance to meet her at the show.
Then we got Christine Galley. Christine Galley is known as being the actor in the suit for not only R2-D2 in the Book of Boba Fett, but she was also R5 in The Mandalorian. So if you got that dual set pop from Celebration 2023 of R5 and R2, you can get a dual sign of two characters on one Funko. She was also a Jawa within the Mandoverse as well as Skeleton Crew. She is brought to us by Out of This Galaxy Talent Agency, and she will be a $60 combo at our event.
The question here, a good question. Are you only accepting American dollars for autographs, or will you accept yen?
All through PayPal. So we're just telling you whatever it's going to be in US dollars, and you work that out with the talent when you're paying them through PayPal. It's all going to be digital. We don't want to have that people worried about having US dollars or quid or euros or yen at the event. So, they'll tell you what it is going to be in US dollars on PayPal, and you'll pay the equivalent of whatever their home
Currency is, yeah.
currency is going to be.
Brilliant. Next up, Bradley Galley.
Christine's husband, also brought to us by Out of This Galaxy Talent Agency. A big props over to our friend Dominic Coate for that. Bradley was Jawa in all of the Filoniverse, as well as played a character within the Skeleton Crew as well. So right there alone, we just announced 2 members of the team of the Skeleton Crew. So we're very excited to have Bradley join us as well.
We also have David Santana.
David Santana, who is currently a native of Tokyo, even though he is very much a European gent. He was a trooper throughout all the Disney era films. And this is his last signing ever. David has announced that he is going to be stopping signings after our event. So if you are a completionist, please make sure that you pick up one of Dave's autographs. He is going to be a $40 combo. Now, I want to preface as well is that all the actors will do autographs and selfies separate from the combo. We're just letting you know the combo prices. They will have their breakdown prices at their actual table. So, for example, if you want to get Dave on a number of pieces and you only want one selfie, he'll have a price for just autographs on top of that.
I believe it was a few years ago. I can't remember the year now. But it was a Star Wars Fun Day. I first met David Santana, an event that was run by Paul Dunn of Leak Signatures, who I think's been doing your international send-ins if people wanted signings as well. So great event that Paul runs in the UK.
And we are a sponsor of this year, the last 2 years.
Yeah, great guy. Another great signing opportunity here.
We have the Toy Father. We have Jim Swearingen. Now, if you don't know who Jim is responsible for the design of all of the toys that we grew up in the Kenner era, including your favorite rocket-firing Boba Fett. Jim will be there, and he'll be signing autographs and doing selfies for $40 US. I know a bunch of people are bringing their 1978 X-Wing to get signed by Jim, and that's a great piece to have signed by him.
Someone else I had a pleasure interviewing just last year as well, Marty, was going to be there.
Marty Matulis, who debuted his first ever signing, was at our Bunta Eve event in London. That was literally a week after his episode in Mandalorian Season 3. Marty is known as the Nektu, known as Vane within the Mandalorian and also the Skeleton Crew. Marty will be a $50 price point for his combo and is someone that you absolutely want to get if you're a completionist for Mandalorian as well as for Skeleton Crew.
Paul, you interviewed him as well on stage in London last year.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, really interesting to talk to, and if you get a chance to meet him, do so. He's a good guy.
And last on your guest list, but far from least.
Yes, our last guest brought to us by our good friend Justin Nunez over at the Elevate Artist Network. We have Kariana Crater. Kariana is known as the cyborg with the biggest heart, KB from the Skeleton Crew. Kariana is a delight to meet for those who have been able to meet her at any events that have been going around. I believe this is her first international tour, and we're very excited to have her there. So if you need your KB Funko or Black Series figure signed, or you want to get her and the other 4 members of the Skeleton Crew cast on your piece, she will be there. Kariana is going to be signing at $60 US price point.
So a pretty amazing lineup you've managed to pull together there, Spencer.
Yeah, really good.
Everything now in the works, planned, organised, goodie bags all packed. Are you ready?
So yes, the last US flag bag went out yesterday. I literally 10 minutes before we went on air finished up the last international swag bag and put into the duffel bag that I'm bringing over to Japan. So I'm personally 92% fully packed myself. So now that the behind the scenes work is done, I'm that much closer to being done with 3 weeks ago. So it's here. We're here. We're on the cusp of Star Wars Celebration, which is the event that, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's unlike anything you're ever going to go to, no matter what convention you ever go to around the world. Celebration is its own breed. If you have fans that are, love Dragon Con, love San Diego Comic Con, this is the one show that's 100% Star Wars for Star Wars fans in whatever capacity. So you'll find yourself and you'll find your tribe just from there. If you've ever felt like an outsider because you've been a Star Wars fan, try being that one person within 70,000 people. You're not alone in this universe. You're not alone in the galaxy. Star Wars Celebration is the ultimate mecca of where you could want to be for Star Wars of any kind of property. And we just happen to appreciate and love the small portion of it that we have a chance to be part of. So we're very excited for whatever we can do to help anybody's experience at Celebration be the best one and the most easy one possible when it can be so daunting. I always say that if you prepare for Star Wars Celebration, you can go to any con in the world and you'll be okay. Quite honestly.
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah. My very first celebration, I was a solo traveller. Met so many people since then. Star Wars Celebration in Germany was when I first met Mark Newbold and Matt Booker, and here we are years later running our own Star Wars site together. So yeah, Star Wars Celebration can be an interesting place, and you never know quite where it's going to lead you.
No, my first one was the same as yours, Spencer. Orlando 2017. Yeah.
So it's nothing like and you find out that you also have experience in your 6 degrees on other interests in your life with people. Brian and I both have a past history in the world of sports entertainment, which we've been able to bond about outside of talking about Star Wars. It's been great, and you realize this world is a lot smaller than you actually realize it is.
Yeah, I'm just adding this to the broadcast again, just so it's there for memory as well. Mr. Newbold can only apologise for Essen.
Way to go, Mark.
Finally, it's been said. Talking of Mr. Newbold, and you mentioned swag there as well. I'm going to run a little video that Mark sent me in today because Father Tracks has finally got swag together for Celebration. So we can just check that out very briefly. So over to Mark.
Good evening, everyone. It's Mark Newbold from Making Tracks and FantaTracks.com here reporting for Good Morning Tatooine. Hello, Brian. Hello, Paul. We have some swag for Star Wars Celebration Japan, which is imminent. And here's a first look. So first off, a gorgeous Celebration Japan pin, or badge, as we call it here in the UK, with a warrior holding a lightsaber on the cover in front of, looks very much like Mount Fuji, and with our twin suns as well in the background, as you can see on all the classic Fanta badges. Very proud to add that to our list of Fanta merch and swag that we've given out over the years. But that's not all. Joining the badge is the magnet, along with a holographic sticker, which is gorgeous. And finally, a limited run of patches. So if you see us at Celebration in Japan, come over, say hi. The code word, as always, is Fanta Trackers are everywhere. And depending on what we're carrying in our pockets at the time, you might either get a badge, a magnet, a holographic sticker, or a patch. And we'll see you in Japan. Back to you guys.
So that is our swag that we're going to have at Celebration. So if you see us at any of the Virtual Cantina events there, I'm sure I will have some in my pocket. So if you say to us, Phantom trackers are everywhere, you might just get lucky.
You saved me a set.
Yeah. A couple of
So
events.
lucky, Paul.
A couple of events just before celebration. I forgot to mention as well, Spencer, was you've organised a couple of days at Tokyo Disney and at Disney at Sea as well, which is another opportunity for people just to gather together and meet up and get to know each other just before celebration.
We started doing Disney, obviously, trips going back to 22 in Anaheim and did a meetup, one of the days of celebration in Anaheim. And why not? I mean, Tokyo Seas has been told is the best park in the world. So it's going to be new for all of us who have never been there. And, why not have a meetup at those parks as well? So, we can either walk around with each other or just say hello, especially if you're not able to make it to the Not So. But at 10:30 on the Tuesday at Disney Seas, we will be meeting up outside of the Tower of Terror for a quick photo op. And then on Wednesday at Tokyo Disneyland outside of Star Tours, just after the 501st meetup, we did purposely so people from the 501st can join the VCN afterwards as well. We'll be having a meetup over there as well at Tokyo Disneyland. So there's plenty of opportunities to meet up with your Virtual Cantina family, whether it be at our events or our meetups at the other parks, or who knows, where you might see us around the entire weekend, because we have quite a few of our members coming over for this year, which is great. A lot more than I had initially anticipated. So the VCN will be very much involved with your entire weekend over at Star Wars Celebration.
And I made sure to get my park tickets to match up with when your events are on, so I'll be there as well. I'll be looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
Joshua, asking if we got our swag in time for the tracker. We didn't. It literally got delivered this morning to Mr. Newbold. And I can tell you a funny story, because I got an alert on my phone saying DPD had just delivered a parcel, and I was waiting for something else. And so I got on the phone to DPD and said, "You have not delivered anything to me." But it was the alert for the delivery to Mark. So I spent 30 minutes on the phone harassing DPD about a delivery that wasn't even to my house.
I've done
So we missed the tracker, but yeah, we'll make sure we'll find you somewhere at one of the Virtual Cantina events, I'm sure, Joshua, and we'll make sure you get the swag. Spencer, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure finding out all about Virtual Cantina's plans for Star Wars Celebration. It's something I'm really looking forward to, and it's the best way to kick off Celebration, I think.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. It's always a pleasure seeing the both of you and the rest of our Fantha family. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you try to meet up with us in Japan in any kind of capacity. We'll have, obviously the hyperspace tickets if you want to get an opportunity to potentially get into the Not So Virtual Cantina, or we'll see you at Disney. But, I leave in 3 weeks, so it's real.
Yeah.
We're going to Japan. Japan is happening. So, guys, once again, thank you so much, Paul. It's great to see you, Brian. I'll see you in just over 3 weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Can't wait.
I'll see you at the next celebration. I won't see you at this one. I'll see you at the next.
Sounds good. We'll see you in 2021.
Yeah.
And, you're not going to escape it. You're going to have to do all these type of events once more, Spencer. It's part of it now. It's part of the tradition.
As long as we have family members that want us there, we will be there. So let's just say that in 2020, we'll be episode 5 of Bunta Eve will happen. I'm just saying that right now.
And it's The Empire Strikes Back. It's going to be the best one.
As it should.
Yeah. Maybe George Lucas will be the special guest.
One could hope. It's either him or, maybe, some people want, a certain MHer to be showing up at a certain event. So maybe it'll be our event. I doubt it, but it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Brilliant. Thanks, Spencer. Thank you so very much for joining us. Me and Paul, we're going to continue with the show. We're going to make some announcements about the Good Morning Tatooine panel for celebration, and we're going to be doing our review of Andor next, if you stick with us. So, first up, Paul, should we talk about our guest for Good Morning Tatooine at Star Wars Celebration, which we can exclusively reveal now.
Tell us all about it, Brian.
Yeah. And it's going to be Kiriana Crater from the Skeleton Crew, who played KB. She's going to be joining Good Morning Tatooine as we collide with Making Tracks, as Panther Tracks TV and Panther Tracks Radio combine to present on the HoloNet News stage on Sunday, the 20th of April at 9:30 a.m. And she's going to be our special guest. She's exclusive signing photographs only at the Virtual Cantina event. You can't get that at the panel. She's there just for a chat. And it's great to have her as our guest, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, what an absolute key to have somebody that is involved with Star Wars and has only just, their series has just come to an end. By all accounts, she's lovely to talk to, very bubbly, very happy to have a chat with you about all things Star Wars. It's a great opportunity to sit in an audience and see some exclusive chit chat between Fantha and Kiriana. So I'm kind of sad that I'm not going to be there. I'll be there in spirit.
You'll be there in spirit. We're going to get you part of the show somehow, Paul. We haven't figured it out yet. We're going to come up with something. But yeah, we're absolutely delighted to announce that Kiriana will be joining us, and looking forward to hearing all about her experience making Skeleton Crew. And that is the big plan for Star Wars Celebration from Panther Tracks. You've seen our merch, you've seen our big guest announcement. So the next thing we need to do is deep dive into Andor, because Andor is going to play a big part of Celebration as well. And season 2 will be launching just the week after Celebration. And we've gotten so far in The Death Star Cometh. We've reached episode 10 of Andor. And it is the... I've got the wrong list in there, but...
well, nobody's listening. Don't worry, Brian. Nobody's listening.
Episode 10, one way out. Let's change that live as we're talking. Shows you how much planning I went into this episode that I forgot to change the name.
I'm guessing it's called one way out. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what I'm calling it. Someone will correct me.
I'm pretty sure
I'm typing. There we go. Episode 10, one way out.
Even got an exclamation mark. No expense spent.
No expense spared.
What
that's
do you
a Jurassic
think,
Park quote, isn't it?
Yeah. What did you think of this episode? This, for me, was the absolute top episode from the whole season. It was a great season anyway, but this, for me, was a cracking episode.
It was. I'm going to have to change this screen as well. It's terrible. Lack of planning, Paul. Lack of planning. It is my favourite episode of season 1.
Yeah.
And it's something Spencer mentioned on Good Morning Tatooine about the 2 huge monologues that are part of this episode. And we'll get a chance to speak about them in just a moment. But the episode kicked off back on Narkina 5, and how to motivate and keep your prisoners in line is to roll the dead bodies past them first thing in the morning as they get to work, isn't it?
Yeah, the poor doctor's never going to escape any criticism. He's the only guy with the blue stripe on his pajamas rather than the orange as well.
He's a blue striper. Don't speak to him. And tensions have now risen. The truth is out there. They know that they're never going to get out of this place, that the prison sentences are just extended and kind of indefinitely. And they become very emotional as they discuss what they're going to do and how they're going to organise a breakout. And brilliant acting by Andy Serkis throughout the episode.
I mean, the whole lead up to this, how Andy Serkis' character goes from being sort of quite a strong sort of supervisor, a leader, he's gradually relented to Andor, And in this episode, he acts his socks off, doesn't he? You get the tension and everything from his character. He's brilliant bit of acting.
Yeah, it was masterful, was the way that I would describe it. I just thought he was brilliant in this episode. Everyone's kind of in the prison's kind of expecting some kind of comment from him, leadership from him. I think he's very respected.
He is,
and
they still think of him
asking a
as the
great
leader,
question there.
so,
Well, great comment there. It's finally great to see some merch from him in the episode as well.
yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting way that he's slowly been broken down into seeing the truth. It's an interesting way they did it, and I thought it was very clever. Imperial friends, meanwhile, are still trying to find out what's going on. Still lots of puzzlement within them.
You've been very well behaved until now.
I have this week. But things are starting to narrow down on what's happening with Luthien and Rail. And meanwhile, on Ferrex, the doctor's been called. Andor's mother, we'll call her, I hate calling her mother, is captive. His abductor. She's very ill. And the fact that she's very ill is being watched both by the rebels and the Imperials as well. Everyone's wanting to know how Cassian's going to react, but Cassian, of course, still in prison. On Coruscant, things are getting difficult for Mon Mothma as well, as our most hated solution to her financial problems caused by our donations to the rebellion has turned up for a little meeting. And his proposal to solve her financial mess that she's in and about to get caught is to introduce his son to Mon Mothma's daughter. And obviously at this point we've seen the trailer for season 2 and we see the wedding. Are we going to presume that it's his son and her daughter that are married?
I think we see him in the trailer, don't we? So I'm guessing that is the case, yeah.
Yeah. I did suggest it would be better if it was Krennic's child, assuming he has a child. I thought that would be more interesting, but well, we'll assume that this is where it's going to go.
Yeah.
I loved the facial reactions during this whole conversation. It was brilliant acting, I think, by all three. They really created this tension where the words didn't match the faces.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Luthien Rail is under a little bit of pressure because his the Imperial traitor is his source has demanded a meeting with him, and he's willing to take it against all recommendations. He's going to meet his Imperial source face to face, which we'll come to. It comes to a very major monologue from Luthien that wraps out the episode. On Narkina 5, they're planning their breakout. Cassian is back, destroying the plumbing, and tensions are rising. Water starts going everywhere, and what does water not mix with very well is electricity. And he gets water everywhere. Everyone's told to get on program, which is now my new favourite phrase. And I find myself using it all the time during life to people that don't know Star Wars, and I've got no idea what I'm saying when I say on program. But yeah, the water was coming into the main work area. It's not good. And Mr. Loy makes the call for them to begin action against the... I don't think it's an Imperial prison. Are we calling them Imperials? I think it's more like a corporate sector type regional jail.
I think the prison sentences were handed down on behalf of the Emperor, so I suppose it is an imperial prison, really.
Yeah,
But it's more of a factory, really, isn't it?
it is. Yeah. So the breakout begins when they start sort of climbing the elevator that we kind of saw in the last episode. And they have their ups and downs. They don't get all their own way, which is what I loved about it, because quite often you find these breakout scenes, it becomes very one-sided. There was a degree of resistance and kickback to that, not to the benefit of everybody. There's an Imperial signia on his uniform, so it is an Imperial jail.
Yeah, it is.
And they all start throwing heavy bits of metal, and not all of them survive, but enough. Cassian's one of the leaders, and he climbs up and gets heavily involved. Shots are fired. Kino gets pretty angry. There's just a moment. I should have had the screenshot before this. Oh, he's just utter calm and sort of looking down at his feet, and he brings his face up and he just screams, and it's a beautiful moment, I think, in the storyline. Cassian is auditioning there for a role in the next Planet of the Apes, I think.
Well, who better to judge it than Kino Lloyd?
That's what I was thinking, yeah. And the fight back begins, and our good friend
Melchi.
Yeah, Melchi. He's one of the leaders here, which I kind of really liked, because we'll see at the end of the episode that Cassian and him kind of team up a little bit in the escape, and but here he kind of shows his sort of fighting qualities, and I thought that was a really clever way to have him sort of be the one sort of leading them sort of through much of the fight back and through the facilities.
Yeah, it's another one of these very gradual feeds, and it's very well done.
And that's, I think that's the perfect way to describe it as well, Paul, because there's so much of that when you start rewatching these episodes. They're just little things like that they just plant the little seeds, and they don't need to say anything. They just let it be.
It's one of those things that if you know who he's going to, what his character's going to develop into, you go, see, they bring them on. But it doesn't really matter if you don't. Yeah.
And Melchi, he's the one going about informing the other rooms, and everybody starts rebelling. And Kino and Cassian, they make it to the sort of central control area and take control of the facility. In effect, power goes out, and the captors are now the captive. And we're going to go back there. You see a great shot here of the whole facility and where everybody is based. And it kind of comes into play a little later. And I don't know if I noticed it the first viewing, but I noticed it on this one that they like to use it as a way to physically depict one way out.
Yeah.
And as Spencer mentioned earlier on Good Morning Tatooine, what a brilliant monologue we get from Andy Serkis here as well. And it shows all the emotions of upset and anger, and that everything that he sort of believed kind of just falls apart, and he becomes filled with this emotion and anger, and begins this chant for one way out.
Yeah, it's a powerful scene. Yeah.
And everybody begins to rise up and climb out and escape, including the Doctor. And it was at this exact point was when the one way out chant started, and you kind of see the Doctor's face, or Blue Stripe as we're going to call him. And that's the one way chant begins. And there we go. I did grab a shot of all the prisoners sort of heading to the central control area.
Noticed as well that that's almost the Imperial insignia as well.
It is, yeah. Very clever. And we see them all running through the facility. The prison officers, probably very intelligently, effectively hide and allow them to make their escape. But it's not an easy escape because they suddenly find out that they're actually surrounded by water in their prison. And some of them make a jump for it. Not all. And Cassian doesn't actually jump, but gets sort of bumped in.
Yeah.
After hearing,
yeah.
I can't swim.
There's some very comical sort of things been done with that for the One Way Out.
Yes.
Events now with like a rubber ring with a duck's head on it and things like that. Yeah.
And it's a little bit like the triathlon at the Olympics.
Yeah.
But then we get this shot, which shows there's not one way out because there's like 3 groups of them all going in different directions.
3 ways out.
3 ways out, yeah. Well, that's what I'm going to go for, 3 ways out. But great visuals as well. It was beautifully done and beautifully executed. Loved this episode. And this would have been a great point to end it, but they didn't. They went one step further and gave us another tremendous scene. And who I was considering to be Cyril's love rival to Daedra has turned out to be nothing but a traitorous piece of scam, Paul.
I interviewed this gentleman at London as well with Mark.
Did you? Did you call him scum?
I didn't like to. Not argue with
it. He meets face to face with his rebel overlord, and they have an interesting back and forth. And basically, he asks to no longer be part of the rebellion, that he's got family and such. Yeah. He wants out. And Luthien basically says, "You're not getting out. I've got you by your short and curlies." And it shows you how difficult this is for everybody. You know, people are making decisions as to what the future should be. And then they may be reversing those decisions, but they're not being allowed to. Luthien's got him under his thumb a little bit, and almost at the point he's forcing him. And Mark's just reminded me of a very pertinent point that Lonnie's going to be at Star Wars Fun Day in Blackburn this year. So just May Day weekend, you make your way along to Star Wars Fun Day in the UK, and you can meet him and you can tell him, "You traitor."
Well, there's also the bit where Lonnie sort of says to Luthien, he says, what have you ever sacrificed? And that's when we get the great monologue, isn't it, from Luthien?
Yeah. And the emotion from Lonnie as well in the scene was brilliant.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Luthien's response in his monologue, just delivered brilliantly. And 2 fantastic monologues, unlike anything we've seen in Star Wars before, to be fair.
And it's like, I think it was Spencer was saying earlier that what Tony Gilroy set out to do was something that was a great drama. The fact that it happens in the Star Wars galaxy is neither here nor there. And he succeeded. It's the fact that Star Wars is the backdrop to all intents and purposes. Does it really matter? Well, it does to us because we love Star Wars. But you could enjoy Andor and not watch any other Star Wars content in your life, and you'd still get something from it.
Yeah. And we still weren't quite finished there. As we went back to Narkina 5, you can see the spotlights in the background of them looking for people.
Yeah.
And Cassian there with his new friend.
Welshie.
Yeah, that's going to be very important in the future for Rogue One and on the planet. And you can kind of see how stark maybe their situation is and trying to escape is. And we'll find more about their escape in next week's episode, Paul.
We certainly will.
Your
which I
thoughts
watched
on episode
with it.
10, because it's just one of my favourites, and it's hard to recap it because so much is based upon those monologues and just
Yeah,
sitting and listening and hearing those monologues. But it's just one of those episodes for me that it's just an art form of an episode.
yeah. I mean, we've all seen films with prison breaks in, but this one, the fact that you've got Kino Loy at the heart of getting everybody out of there, and then ultimately it looks like he's not going to be able to get out of there because he can't swim. You know, it's sort of sadly poetic. I think the character does survive, and although we've not seen him in any content for season 2, I would like to think he's going to be in season 2. So it'll be interesting to see what character development he has, because I can only imagine that he didn't leave the facility. So it'd be interesting to see what they've done.
Yeah. Great episode. 2 episodes to go.
Yes.
Looking forward to covering the next 2 episodes because everything's kind of wrapped up. And
And then you're off to Japan to watch the first episode while you're there.
Well, I hope we get to see the first episode whilst we're there. I'm not entirely sure. Will it be shown as part of Celebration or the following week? Will my Disney Plus work? I have taken a month subscription to NordVPN just in case it doesn't.
I think that's very wise.
So yeah, I hope I get to see it when I'm out there. So I hope there's a screening.
I think there will be. That's what
and I
I'm
hope
saying.
I get access to it when I'm out there. I'm looking forward to it. I'm still not a fan of 3 episodes a week, but that's just because I want to be able to discuss the episodes with people, and when it's 3 episodes, you don't know quite when you can. It's a lot more difficult than.
I suppose we'll be discussing it as 4 movies, won't we? Rather than
yes, I think so.
Yeah. That's the way to look at it. So no, it's still going to be a very exciting prospect to have more Andor content. I mean, from the trailers, it looks great. A little bit more action-packed, perhaps, in the first season. So I hope we don't lose the pacing that we had in season 1, because I kind of like that. It felt like a novel. It felt like we were digging deeper into a Star Wars property than perhaps we've done in the past. So I'm hoping we haven't lost that.
And I hope as well, it's not just because I love the Empire, but I do hope that we see a more grey rebellion like we have been seeing in Andor season 1, where their decisions and their behaviours are questionable. And that's why I hope more than anything that the Gorman massacre is a rebellion red flag.
Yeah.
And there was little things that Tony Gilroy has said that made me think that might be the case. And I actually think that Gorman may be Luthien Rail's home planet. And we find out a little bit more about Luthien Rail. We've kind of been promised we're going to find out more about where he came from and what his motivations are. And
possibly, yeah.
If that's his home planet, it makes sense that he does something there. And it also kind of makes sense that he disappears off the map because maybe he dies as part of the Gorman massacre. Yeah. And maybe he's the one that starts it.
Do you think we'll see Palpatine and Vader?
I don't. I would love to see Palpatine because he is the shining example of what democracy is. And
of course.
I would love to see him, but I feel a little bit like there's something a little bit more special about having, I don't know if it's fair to call them anymore, but the smaller characters in the scale of the Star Wars story. So you don't need a Han, Luke, Leia, you don't need a Vader, you don't need an Emperor.
No.
You're kind of seeing the nuts and bolts of what the rebellion was. You're seeing the foot soldiers, in effect, both from the Imperial side. You're seeing the inner workings of the Empire and the formation of the rebellion. It's a lot more interesting, I think. I think if you bring things like the Emperor or Vader in, you kind of maybe lose that a little bit. I would like to see Tarkin.
Yeah.
I don't know if the ongoing legal case will have made that impossible. I kind of fear it may have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Tarkin would have made sense. And especially he's very much connected to the Gorman massacre story because he badly parked his ship on top of some rebels. You know, these things happen if you don't have reversing cameras on your Star Destroyers, you know.
It can happen.
It can happen. Yeah. Happen to anyone. It would make sense, especially him alongside Krennic, I think. Could you have a little cameo of the Emperor? You could if it was done in the same way that they sort of introduced the Death Star at the end of season 1. Spoilers, people. But just that token shot, perhaps. You know, when you finally sort of see Mon Mothma's, I guess, expulsion from the Senate in a way, when she takes her final step where she's revealed publicly as being a rebel. Maybe you have the Emperor appear in some kind of scene that corresponds to that. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
But I don't think you need them there. I don't think you need them there speaking or doing anything particular. And I think that's perhaps why you won't see them. And in the same way, I don't think you'll see Jyn Erso, because I don't think it makes sense to see Jyn Erso.
No, you won't.
I
don't think you'll see Jyn Erso.
Galen Erso potentially makes sense, but you would need to see him as an Imperial.
Yeah, I think we'll see Galen. I keep hoping that we'll see the character that gets shot right at the start of Rogue One, whose name eludes me again.
Yes, that would make sense.
The Daniel Mays character.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to see who was the antagonist in Solo that clearly ended up becoming some part of the rebellion.
Lando.
I'd like to see her in it as well.
Oh, Amelia Clark.
No.
Amelia Clark.
No.
Yeah.
No, not her. But yes, her as well. But no, Enfys Nest.
Too young.
You think?
Yeah, maybe.
It's set around the same time.
That's true. I don't know. I would like. I think it makes sense for Krennic to be at the Imperial Intelligence Bureau, and I think it would make sense for Galen Erso to come in and say, "I have developed a space station that will help restore peace to the galaxy." That would make sense.
Well, we've already seen the space station. I mean, I think it'll just be general meetings, but I think Galen Erso will appear, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I don't think you need to see the Emperor. I don't think you need to see Vader.
But they're definitely about, so I'd love to see them.
Yeah, you know, the Emperor's a hard-working man. That's the thing. He hasn't got time for these little meetings. He's got a lot of things to organise, you know. A Senate scene potentially.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. I mean, we had one in at least one in season 1, didn't we? So yeah, I think we need to have another Senate scene, and potentially with some of the other characters as well.
Bail Organa, perhaps.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, that'd be good to see Bail.
All the traitors.
All the traitors. Yeah, bring all the traitors.
Get all the traitors all together. The people forget that it was Padme Amidala who was the instigator for Chancellor Palpatine and stepping up and taking the role of Chancellor.
Yeah, but
they had a choice of 3 people. You know, it was democracy manifest, as they say.
She's been sold a lot. Look, we've all been there, right? We've all been sold.
We've all made mistakes. We've all voted the wrong person in and ended up having to cope with the consequences.
It's happened. It happens a lot these days. So it's not a stretch of the imagination.
What I would say, was that when Emperor Palpatine took charge, he sorted out issues with the Trade Federation.
Yes.
Made trade a lot easier, you know, eliminated some tariffs and problems on the borders.
Border disputes.
Oh, dear.
Let's not start talking about trade embargoes or anything.
Oh no, but it's the spring statement here in the UK this week where we find out how miserable the rest of the year is going to be, and we'll get all our taxes or be raised. Joys.
Pension age will go up to 78. Yeah, it's all good.
Dear, sad times. Paul, that is the end.
Of
this week's
the end. It's just the end.
It's the end. We won't be back. That's the end. The Death Star cometh for this week, and we'll be back next week with episode 11 of Andor. Meanwhile, we can wrap up Good Morning Tatooine, if I can spit that out. Give some shout outs, I think, to end the show to what else is going on the Panther Tracks network. And first port of call every morning should be panthertracks.com for all the latest Star Wars news in a single file. And if websites aren't your thing and you prefer social media, Paul, they've got a whole host of places they can go as well.
We've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got X, we've got Threads, we've got TikTok. You can find us pretty much anywhere on your phone.
You have Panther Tracks Radio as well. Search for Panther Tracks Radio on your podcatcher of choice. Making Tracks 221 on Tuesday, which means they've made 221 episodes, Paul, and never had me on the show.
You've never been on there?
I've never been on Making Tracks.
Oh, I think I appeared on one that was recorded at an event, maybe a couple of episodes. That's shocking, Brian. We need to sort that out.
Maria Sandville will be the special guest a week today on Making Tracks as well. So even she will have been on Making Tracks. And
what about Brian as a special guest? Oh,
Mark Van Olen,
no,
he's even been on the show. He's on the episode that's out today. All these people have been on the show. It's terrible, isn't it? But you know where you can find me. Panther Tracks TV. Good Morning Tatooine every Sunday. Jabba's Court most Wednesdays. And you won't find me in regular live streaming gaming. We'll just ignore that just now. Another place you won't find me. What's he saying? It's 370 actually. I don't know what that's in reference to. He's just talking rubbish now.
To his number of shows of Making Tracks.
Perhaps the number of podcasts he hasn't invited me on. You know, perhaps at the celebration stage, was, you know, Good Morning Tatooine is going to crash with Making Tracks. That will be my first appearance.
Yeah.
Unless I get invited on before then. What's the chances?
You might be the star guest. I mean, you know, Kirian might be the second best guest, and you could be the top guest. There you go.
There's been 370 episodes of Making Tracks in total, and I haven't been on a single one. He's just rubbing it in now, isn't he?
And he still hasn't answered that, has he?
No, I'm not getting an invite. It's nice. He's invited me to be on the live episode at Star Wars Celebration. That's nice, isn't it?
Oh, that's big of him.
Ah, dear Mr. Newbold. There we go. One day, perhaps I'll be invited on. It's probably because I don't behave myself.
No chance then.
There you go. The filter's working apparently. There we go. There we go. This has been our longest show yet, Paul. I think we should call an end to it before things get even sadder.
Okay. Well then. So
it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from him. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on panthertracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Panther Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Panther Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.